Welcome back to Wook Plus. I am Weekend Wook, joined by T tonight. Holy shit, T! What a first night of a New Year's run. That felt like a night two or night three to me. That didn't feel like a night one. That felt like they were warmed up and ready to go and ready to rage, and just came out fucking blazing. You're muted still. Oh, welcome, Mike O'Connell. Welcome to the Wook
Hey,
Crew.
welcome, Michael. I mean, guns blazing, just right out of the gate. I mean, wow, eh,
Yeah,
that was
let's
something. I
get the
mean,
Let's get this first set in here because I think this was a really fire first set. Um, we were talking in our little thread about the size of this no man's and how it was starting to really get good and then it felt ripcorded. I kind of felt all right with it though, right? Like I thought it set the stage, but I can see what you mean though. Is like especially with no man's, that's one of those ones that has so much potential once it gets going.
always.
What do you think about this version of it, though?
I mean, I again, it felt like right when they were getting into that jam that usually starts to extend it out to 12, 15 minutes, it just kind of like got cut out and they went into that Haley's. And I was like, oh, which I understand because it is the first song of the first night of the run. And it's kind of an odd place for No Man's to kind of fit. You'd think it'd be a little bit later because it's usually kind of a jammy song. It usually takes it somewhere. So to have it kind of just this minimal version of it as an opener was kind of a interesting call, I thought. I thought it was a good warm up. It definitely stretched the legs and showed the potential of what was going to happen tonight. I think we'll mention it like a little bit as we get when we get into it, but I think the Ghost Jam was what the No Man's Jam was supposed to be. Like the Ghost Jam had a lot of that No Man's Jam in it, and even started singing it in it. And I felt like that kind of continued on that one. So it was a weird cut out of that. I thought it works as an opener, but it was one of those, like, it was an interesting way to start the show and not give it its proper length that you usually get with it.
Yeah, I think though the fact that it did rear its face and ghost kind of made it okay, right? Like it almost made it like a set sandwich. I always find when they come out with like, No Man's or Creamy or one of these bigger songs that usually have a little bit more to them. I kind of feel like that's like a statement, right? Like they're like coming out like, hey, we're gonna lay it down. We're not playing it safe. And as much as I love starting a show with Buried Alive or Car Struck Buzzes or one of like the standard short, like, hey, let's get all the nerves out. I think starting like this really set up the night exceptionally well. And I thought it was, I mean, the cool thing too is all night they were so tight and on point with their playing. And so even though like the jam, we could talk forever and we do, and I love doing it, but like, oh, it would be cool if they went in this direction or if they stretched that out. But the actual playing in the No
Yeah.
Man's was phenomenal. It sounded so good.
And you could say that across the board, I thought, tonight, though. Like for a night one, it's usually sometimes a little sloppy, sometimes a little slow, sometimes getting your feet, on the ground again, playing again together, doing all that. I didn't really feel that tonight. I thought right from the jump, there wasn't any point tonight that I was like, wow, they fucked that up, or that was really sloppy, or that was a sloppy entrance into that, or anything. I thought a lot of the segues worked. I thought a lot of the songs were, whether it had a good jam, like a longer jam in it or a shorter jam, were played really well. They sounded very tight tonight, especially
Yeah.
for night one.
So the Haleys was the first sense that the jams were going to be there tonight, right? And a lot of times in the first sets you get no jams or very minor micro jams. This one still wasn't very long, but it went a little spacier, got pulled a little bit more than it had been recently. It was more akin to like the Hershey's Haley's a couple years ago than the last few they've done. And I think it was kind of like a foreshadowing of what we would get in the Gin and Ghost, and then a lot in the second set that they were settled in and kind of like Trey said on Series the other day, like they're at home, right? Like they feel super comfortable, and you could hear it there.
It's shooting hoops in your driveway, man. At this point, it's not even like a home field, right? It's not even like your home. It's literally their home court. So like the comfort level there is, it just adds to, and I think that makes it a lot easier to go out on stage and slip into whatever, right away and go for it. And I thought that Haley's, it started a little loose with Trey's voice, I thought, at the beginning, and that was the only time tonight that I felt like there was a little bit of slippage in his voice at the beginning of that. And other than that, I thought he corrected it and they kind of like they got right into it. And this we talked about it at the intermission a little bit, but I thought this was also where Page started to sort of make his point. I thought the MVP tonight was Page, especially in the first set. I thought he was just some of the piano and organs and synths tonight were just beautiful and perfect. And the playoff of Trey tonight he had was really good. His vocals even sounded really good tonight as in the backup areas. But I thought in the Haleys was where he made his first statement and kind of like played a little bit. And when Trey was doing that, like the weird sound with the guitar and playing that, Page was like matching him with the sounds of his stuff. So I just thought it was a really cool, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some synthy in it, which was again the foreground for what we were going to see all night tonight. I thought that was sort of the laying the groundwork for it in that one.
Yeah, it definitely was the precursor. I agree. I think for me it was probably the Funky Bitch where Paige like really took
Hmm.
off,
Yeah,
but I definitely felt a crescendo, an up ramp leading up all the way through the first set where he was just coming out more and more and hitting it. Sample was serviceable. I have nothing negative to say about it, but it was a very straightforward, not jammed
sample. Yeah,
sample. It was just sample. It
I
was a
liked the
sample
jam in it.
sample.
Yeah, it was. I liked the jam in it. It didn't do anything special, but it was a great. Again, the tightness was there. They played it very well. It was really good. I just say, Joe, Warfrat Joe, what's up, man? It's good to see you. But yes, go listen to night one if you haven't heard tonight. Listen to it. At least check the replay tomorrow on Sirius when they do it. But check it out. It's well worth the re-listen tonight.
Yeah,
There's
I
some good
agree.
stuff.
Yeah, and Jemp, our buddy Andy's gonna replay tomorrow also. He'll be playing all 4 nights the next day. I think it's like
Yep,
I don't know what time, go but just go check out Jemp. Or yeah, or Sirius. But
highly recommend
okay,
the
so
replay.
this Jim, I always love Runaway Jim. I think it's one of my like one of those unsung heroes that I don't always think about right away, but when I hear it, I love it. I really liked how smooth this one was. A lot of times the gyms are really driving and they have like a lot of which is great, right? They have that uppity energy where you're just like boom. But this one I would describe as more smooth and blissful, maybe a touch slower pulled back,
Hmm.
but not in like a shitty way. It was more of like a nice, like it settled, right? Like it was like a riding gym. Like I definitely dug the tone and feel of it.
I liked I love the breakdown when it slows down and basically stops, and then they ramp it back up with a damn, 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 and come back in.
Yeah.
And Jim and Divided Sky are two of my faves, so this was a fun show tonight to get both of them in one show. That was really, I was very excited about that. But um, I'm always a big fan of Jim. To your point, an 8 minute one, it didn't exactly have that the jam in it or get to those peaks or like really rip anything. It was just very you could ride it. Like it was a very like rideable gym. It was very cool. It was also the first one they've played at MSG since the Baker's Dozen. So
Oh wow.
it was
I
nice
didn't
to have
realize that. That's
Jim back.
cool.
Yeah. So
We want
was,
Jim. And then we got our breather, and instead of doing a ballad, we just got a nice, short, concise bouncing. Which,
yeah,
it's not my favorite song, but if that's gonna be the set breather, I love it. I mean, the
totally.
vintage. We got to talk real quick. I guess this is a good point because this is when I think I first noticed that it was several in a row. Right? We had an 86, a 93, a 90, a 90, and you're like, so the vintage for this first set was 93. And if you take out the no man's to start it, it would be even like probably 90.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Like I love when they do that. And we kind of talked about that at the member hang on at the set break, but like just like they did in the summer, you knew they were coming back with a bunch of 4.0 stuff. But
Yep.
it works. I love this first set. I love this set list. I mean, sometimes fan services is great, right? Like, play it up. You know what we want, do it. It's great.
Do it. Yeah. And I thought, that this first set on paper is great, right? Just looking at it, you're like, oh, I would listen to this show. But then when you actually listen to it and get into it, it's a hell of a good it's a good it's tight. Like it's a great night one show. It's really there's some good jams in there, some good playing all the way around.
Yeah. Axilla part two. Um, I like part two, and I'm glad it's here. And I liked the part 1.5 that I don't remember what show they did. Maybe it was the fall or the summer, but
Mhm.
I like this. I don't really have much to say. I think it felt like it injected a lot of energy into the room. I don't know if
Yeah,
it translated to the webcast as much. Like, it's like, oh, cool, they're playing Axilla. But like when you watched the audience and you heard like the crowd and everything, you could tell that like this fired everybody up even further.
yeah.
And then especially coming out of the bouncing. So
Right, exactly. And again, I thought they actually the Page can then when they had Page on for that, like he was ripping. Like this was another song that Page like really showed off on and like took places. Like I thought it was a really good version for him. I don't know how anybody cannot like Kev doesn't like this song, and I always argue with him for it. I love it's just such a rocker. Like it's arena rock. Like it's just so fun. And to your point, it gets everybody kind of up, and it's what you want after like the bouncing, right? Like turn it around and like boom, up to 11 again, and let's go. And to your point too, with the webcast, there was a couple. This was one. I'm gonna bitch for a minute about the production value. This was one of those ones where like in this interview, when Trey Kerr was like, "We try and show the lights a lot as much as we can and shit." This was one of the songs where they kept cutting when they cut to the lights. It was in black. Like at one point, they had that long shot zooming in so slow, and the entire stage was black. It was so.
yeah,
I was like,
why are you wasting it?
why are
Exactly.
you wasting it on this shot? Now is when you need to be up close with the guys because we can't see shit. And then at the beginning, when they were showing the orange, right before it switched to the blue lights, he cut away from it right when it was like starting to do. And I was like, man, you're killing me on the Axilla. Like, the lights are fucking primed during it. So that's
They
just a
need to
little.
introduce an audio stream, live stream, because like I love watching it, but I'll be honest, I've kind of given up with like for that reason. And a lot of times I'll just like close my eyes or you know what I mean? Like I end up like not like staring at because they're not shooting what I want to see. It's almost frustrating and takes me out of it. But why pay for the full fucking webcast if you could do an audio
You could just
or
listen
or
to it.
give us control
Yeah.
of the cameras or just do better at producing it. One of those three
One of
options.
those three. I totally agree. I agree. But we bitch about that a lot, and I digress. So anyway, back to the show. Funky bitch.
Okay, so the next three songs concurrently, I said the same thing each time. This is my highlight of the set. When they start playing Funky Bitch, I was like, oh, damn. This is my highlight. And then, obviously with Jin and then with Ghost. But Funky Bitch, even though they ended up getting out of it fairly quickly, was so fucking tight. Mike's vocals were on point. Paige was on fire, coming in first with the piano, really
Yep.
big, and then switching over to the synths. I thought it had an awesome big finish. It was just all around a great version of Funky Bitch.
It was.
Super
It
funky.
was super funky, super fun, super. I mean, my note that I wrote down for it was page, page, page. The
All
piano, so
Page.
sweet. That was pretty. That was all I had to say for Funky Bitch. Like it was just it. Yeah, did its job nicely and funked. Biatch.
Yeah, and good for Mike, man. He can do
Yeah,
it. I'm
yeah.
glad he did it.
Glad he did it. Totally. And then that Jen. I mean, this was literally my highlight of the first set. If you want to talk about it, like this will be a re-listen and a re-listen again. This one was just there was a lot going on in there, and to pick it all apart with just one listen is a little difficult. But it was man, there was some again Page on the piano, but you knew that jam was gonna, as soon as that started in that jam, you knew it was gonna be something and go somewhere. And man, was that thing just the synth when the synths kick in and like it had everything. It was great.
Yeah, the synths were awesome. I like the subtle spacey bleeps and bloops. We had gotten in 21 and then finally back in Chicago, I think we started to get like the traditional bleeps and bloops where it just goes full plinko arcade madness. But now I feel like it's evolved again to where those tones will be introduced into a jam, but it'll be a little more subtle and introduced slowly as the jam's building. So it gives that feel to the jam without sounding like the exact same thing you just heard. Because the problem with how they had been doing the bleeps and bloops was it was like a section that they just cut and pasted into different jams, and it always kind of felt and sounded exactly the same. Now it's evolved. It felt like a very unique gin jam with those undertones and the synths that just really worked. I liked the big blissy feel to it. I liked how it got up tempo. It was sneaky. PHiSH tonight, he did it a couple times. In Ghost, he did it a ton, but even in Jin, he was really sneaky with his rhythmic modulations and increasing and pulling back tempos so like subtly you don't even realize they're doing it. It wasn't until they returned to the top, like returned to the head in Jin, I was like, oh shit, they were blazing, because then they had like that big slowdown, into the top of Jin, and you're like, oh damn, I didn't even realize how up tempo that jam had gotten, how big it had gotten.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, yeah. Because it was one of those, but that's what the beauty of it was that slow, that kind of slow build, and then all of a sudden you're going, 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 and then when you pull back, you're like, oh man, we were really going there. Like you don't realize how fast you're running until like you stop, kind of thing, and then you're like, oh man, we were really running there. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Bill, I think that's a good point, because we've had some really great shows this year, but there's like, oh, this was a Bliss show, or this was a dark show, or this was a rock show. I really liked tonight because you definitely got a taste of everything. You got some Bliss, you got some dark, you got some bluegrass, you got some, well, not
Funk.
really, but yeah, but you
Got
got
a
a
little
lot of funk. You got a lot. You got some bleeps, you got some bloops. Everybody was happy. I think going into Ghost out of this gin, just as a choice, again, was an excellent, just a fantastic choice to make. I liked PHiSH getting his samples in. I'm pro PHiSH sample.
definitely.
Um, and then again, I already mentioned it, but the rhythmic modulations and the shifts in it, I thought were really fantastic. Just a
Yeah.
overall great way to end the really solid set.
And it kind of felt like, I mean, I kind of thought Jen was the end, right? Like it kind of felt like that was the wrap
Yeah,
up.
it had that feeling, or maybe they would do like chalk dust or something short, you
Something
know.
short, but it actually almost sounded like S.A.N.T.O.S is what it sounded like he was tooling with there, and I thought they were going to go into S.A.N.T.O.S to close that set, and that's really what he kind of tinkered that way, and then he kind of went into that go. You're like, oh, okay, it's going to be Ghost. Okay, that's even better, of obviously, but interesting way to close the set out of that Gen. But that Ghost was just, I mean,
I wonder if they meant to go into the Ghost, like, because it has a very similar structure in the beginning, and it didn't feel locked in at first.
no,
Not in
it
a
didn't.
bad way, but it felt like they
Yeah,
were like tinkering with it. And
yeah.
and it was almost like there was like they were doing a tug of war. They're like, are we going Santos? No, let's go Ghost.
And then he's
And
like,
everybody's
ooh,
like,
you know what?
yeah, they did Ghost.
And I think he was like, "Oh wait, let's not do Santos now. We got to do that at the end. Let's do Ghost now and fit that in here, right? That kind of thing." But and then that Ghost jam again, it picked up some of that
No
No Man's
man's.
Jam, and he
Yeah.
even started singing it in it because it was so funny. As soon as I put it in my notes, like, "Oh, this could be the No Man's Jam," a second, like a little bit later, he started singing No Man's. I was like, "Uh huh." It totally had that vibe in it and that feeling that that could have been, had No Man's been in this spot, it could have been a 12-minute No Man's with that sort of jam in it. So it was
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I overall great fucking set.
Great fucking
Uh
first set.
All right, let me do some quick housekeeping. I'll run through this quick.
Do it.
All 4 nights of the run, we will be doing live after show, 15 minutes after Encore, right here. So please join us each night. Tomorrow, Andy Gadiel from Gadiel's Fish page will actually be joining us, and I think Kev will be back, so we'll have a full house. Really to get in deep. He specifically requested the 29th because it's the headiest of all shows. So I'm looking forward to
Everyone knows
having
that.
him on.
Everyone
Um,
knows that.
yeah, of course. If you're not yet a member, I highly recommend joining and hanging out with us at the set breaks. We had a really fun hang today. T and I were on point with our predictions. We pretty much called the Wave of Hope in the 2 slot with the Massive Jam. I mean, that wasn't like that foreseen, but it's fun. It's a cool time to hang out, and it's a little more casual. So check that out. And also, I have to plug Jambase. Scott what did he say? Enlisted me. That's how they said it in the article. Enlisted us to do a top 10 list for 23, and I did a little write up on it, and they were gracious enough to publish my wookery, my wook words on their website, and it was very nice, and I felt honored.
I was
Um,
very glad that you left the bowl show at 2. I know we had talked about that and Kevin mentioned that. I was very happy to see that that ended up where it did. That was a good call. I thought your list was really on point. I'm glad. through our discussions and you doing it and everything, it came out really well. It was a great article, and you guys should go check it out. Go read it and rewatch our recaps and the show stuff on there. It's cool. They're embedded in the article. It's
Yeah, it
really
was
cool.
great having the links there, and I'm glad nobody's giving me too much shit. Like, I was worried about like going out and making a list because nobody ever agrees with your list. Like, that's the whole idea of making a list. Everybody was gonna be like, "Oh, how did you leave this out?" But really, the only person that gave me shit was Scoot, and I don't care. Like, Scoot's allowed to do that. All
That's
right.
funny. Hey, look, a couple people we got. He ran into Kev apparently. Slavy ran into Kev there, and so did Josh Heston. Went. Nice. At least you guys. Hopefully, you ran into him and he didn't run into you on his way to the rail or something. As we know.
If you guys see Kev in person, you're supposed to call him by the wrong name. He loves that. Call him Llama. That's gonna fuck him up so bad. Don't do that.
Oh man, that's
Oh,
good.
God. Makes me laugh. All right, second set.
That's
Oh
good.
man, this was even better. I don't know if it was better, but it was fucking great. Um, Howling has become what we all kind of hoped it would become. It's just a fun, funky dance party that you could kind of throw in a lot of different spots. It's a switch hitter, but it works and it works really well. I think my only like if I had to be all critical and shit, which I don't like to be, would be the samples are a little loud and grinding. I think they could pull that back a little bit and not have it so like, in your face, but the groove is so good.
So
And the
good.
dance is so like everyone dancing is so much fun and love this song.
And the
Big fan
drop
of
in it,
this.
it's so much fun. Like the little drop in it when you get that funk going, and it's the kind of song that can weave its way throughout the night. Like you saw it in the set come back a few times, and that sound of it in there. So it's one of those fun songs that you know how Trey loves to kind of play around and bring things back and play the crowd and do that kind of thing. This is one of those songs that I think we'll get more and more of that as we go along. But it's just such a fun song. It's so good. It's great.
I'm
And as
glad
an
this is the
opener,
one that came out of sci-fi. Like out of all the songs, I'm
yeah.
glad this is the one that really landed.
Has gotten
And
its
then
embrace and an interesting opener, right? Like it's an interesting, again, an interesting spot for it to open that set and kind of lay that foundation for what's to come in this set, especially what's to come right after it with the Wave of Hope that just shredded. I mean, woo.
dude, the Wave of Hope in the 2 slot, I think, is as predictable as you can be, and at the same time, generated a jam that I did not see coming, right? Like, it was such an original, unique jam. So it works. Like, I like the 2 slot jam vehicle. I was doing that with the list for Jam Base. I realized every show I pick, or like 9 out of the 10 shows I picked, had a monster 2 slot jamming, and that's just how they're set up. But the Wave of Hope is, whether you like it or not, has become a high batting average jam vehicle. It is up in the same conversation with modern versions, of Disease and Tweezer and Ruby
Yeah,
Waves. Like, these are the big jam vehicles these days, right? I really fucking love what Fish did on this. I know we've been talking Page, and Page deserves all the accolades, but Fish we really took the lead and I feel like control with the tempos on this and breaking into the half times and then modulating back into the double time and then back into the half time and doing a lot with the grooves. Mike, I also want to give a shout out. His super fat, bloopity bass just
yeah,
bombing in there, which was awesome. And I like how dark parts of it were. Like this, I feel like Wave of Hope suffers sometimes from the bliss, the blissness, the blissfulness. It often gets the bliss jams. And this one
yeah.
had some neat, dark, interesting shit going on.
A
It
lot.
eventually got to that light jam that was like not dark, but before that it was super dark. So, you know.
Yeah, and like we had talked about at intermission, sort of that what would be that song? Would it be Set Your Soul Free? Was it gonna be Wave of Hope? Like we knew one of those songs was going to be in this set because of like the way it was set up in the first set with getting into that longer jam and getting into that sort of feeling of being able to take a song 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, which this was it, right? This was the one that they decided to hop on the horse and ride out there. And it's a great song to do it. Like it rips, and 23, 24 minutes of it was fantastic. I mean, there
It's
were so many.
perfect length. I don't think they needed. I felt like if they tried to force this one and do like the Ruby Raves treatment and try to get it up to like the 30, it would have been too much. I think it because that huge climax coming out of the driving part was perfect. And then when they brought it back into the halftime again, I was like, oh shit, what are they doing? You know, it's like almost gonna be too much. And then quickly went into Rift, and I was like, oh, thank you. That was awesome. I really have no complaints with the layout and the composition of that jam.
No, and I thought the drop into Rift was really perfect. Like I thought it was really fun. I thought it was a really great place for that. As soon as that guitar started with the bang, like I was like, yes, great
Yeah.
call. Like this is perfect after this jam. Like how fun. And in that place, it had to have been one of those. All right, like woo, let's go. Like let's go.
Big
Right,
eruption.
right. And then another one right after that with the mics because you drop into that after, and it was just like these three songs in a row were just blazing, like just going. It was great.
And the rift was clean. And this is for, this is one that struggled in the more recent years. I think that like there's been sloppier versions. And I mean, listen, I'm not judging. Like they've learned a million fucking songs, and every single one of their songs are intricate and complicated. But like the fact is this is one of those songs that has struggled, in the last 5 years, 10 years, I don't know how long, but this version of it felt rehearsed, it felt practiced, it felt fresh in their hands and clean. And then it
Yeah,
wasn't anything like spectacular, but it wasn't detracting either. It pushed the set along what already was set up with an amazing wave of folk jam. It just kept driving that momentum forward, which is what it needed to do in that spot.
yeah.
It's great to hear it.
And it wasn't loose. It didn't struggle. It didn't. It wasn't. It was on the tracks the whole way through, like
Yep.
tight, done, and fit perfectly where it fit in that spot. It was great, and I think it was the only song off of that album that we got tonight too, which is unusual, right? That was the only one. I can't remember. That was the only one, right? Because usually when you get one song off of that album, you're going to get at least a wedge or something else in there at some point, and we didn't. So that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting choice for that spot too,
Yeah,
in the middle of the second set, but I like it.
it was great.
Um, I got to say, Mike's, and it's weird because Mike's is everybody's like it's a top 10 song for everybody, but this past year I feel like it's elevated itself. We've gotten some really, truly remarkable MSG Summer Run. There was a couple this year that have just been absolutely great. I don't know if this tonight's was like a right home Mike's, but it was certainly strong. I think it had a lot going on to it.
I
Um,
thought it reminded me of the one when they went into the what was it, the boogie on, and then dropped back into, like, it had this
that's the
element
one I was
in it.
thinking of. Yeah.
It just had this element in it that I thought was gonna get really sick in the middle of it because they started doing some of the howling jam in there. You got some of the synths, beeps and bloops going on in it. It was just it had this weird synth sound. It was jamming hard. I was like, oh man, they're gonna do something fun in the middle of this. And I know we texted back and forth about this before and everything. I mean, I'm a purist. I like my mics hydrogen pog. It's like their help slip Frank. I hate it when they when they separate it. It's like that's their version of that, and I love it when they do that. So I was waiting for at least that drop into hydrogen there, and then the excitement of that jam that you get, that darkness and that grittiness in hydrogen, and then the drop into pog. So the drop into simple, I was a little bit like, oh man, I'm just people love it. I know, and I'm just one of those people like play the three in a row, give me my help slip Frank, and then give me simple. Like you
Simple,
can do it
yeah.
after it, but I don't know. I thought we got a little bit cheated, but I could see it at the end too. And Trey was doing it on the encore. He had that in his head, like he loves to do those things that he thinks is so fun and fun for the crowd. Oh, we'll do Pog as the third song in a 4-song encore, woohoo, type thing. So you're like,
I think
okay, do
last
it.
time they did that though, it's becoming the norm. They've done it more times than they've done the traditional groove. I feel like if you're gonna do groove, do like the traditional.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know, and I guess all right, if we're being crotchety old fucks that are complaining about shit we shouldn't complain
jaded.
about, if you're gonna do Mike Simple, give me a Mike Simple groove, and then save Blaze on for the encore, right? I don't know. I gotta say my favorite combo was Mike's ass handed groove though, because it felt like an ass-handed Weekapaug. Like it
Yeah,
just felt like a no,
natural.
yeah. But
Yeah,
all right, let me go back to being positive because I do think that mics have been getting a little extra treatment and I like it. And after you got over the oh, I wish I had hydrogen here, and you actually got into simple. This is the first point of the night when we were talking about how you had all these flavors, right? It was like the uh charcuterie board of jams. This is where you got a little spacey, trippy, unsettled like weirdness in the jam, which I was glad that we got a touch of that tonight.
yeah.
I think it kind of worked well. Problem for me though, and I know it's hard to say ripcord when you're at 15 minutes, but like since they did go so trippy and weird, it didn't feel like it got settled until about 14 minutes. And when it finally started to settle into a groove, they were like, "Oh, we're getting out of this." And I was like, "Wait, what? What are you doing?"
Well, and it was weird because it dropped Wade. It got to that real slow down, basically a stop, and then start back up. And in those moments, it kind of felt like it could have gone into a 2001. It could have gone Piper. I kind of felt like it could have
Or
really easily
hydrogen, and then it would have just been,
and then dropped the hydrogen, right, and done that. So it was really interesting, like kind of it almost felt like that Jen and a Ghost where they were kind of like what are we gonna try? And then he kind of went into Blaze On, which was like the left turn I was not expecting at all to drop into there. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. So
yeah.
again, Ripper Shredder, interesting close too. I wasn't quite prepared for that to close the set. I thought we'd get something else in there, but I guess when you're going to do a 4-song encore, that's where you call it at. But I was a little shocked that that was the closer. An interesting run though there of the Mike Simple Blaze On, weird, but again, they're so tight and they were so on. It works so well. It flowed well. The Blaze On, 10 minutes again, a lot of jammy vehicles in this set, like the Wave of Hope. Mike's could have gone somewhere that's simple at 15 minutes. The Blaze On, it could have even gone to 12, 13 and pushed it a little bit more. But I thought it had a good jam in it, a little shreddy. Just wasn't expecting it to close.
I think Blazon did what it needed to do though, and the 10 minutes was enough to get it there. Um, so a couple of thoughts. When you're speaking, it just gets me all fired up with all these interesting thoughts. It was a non-traditional end of a set in the grand scheme of like PHiSH, I would say, but in the context of MSG, it almost felt very traditional. Like this felt
Yeah,
like a very MSG
same.
set, like the
Yeah,
blaze on in a big blaze on and towards the end of a second set, I feel like has become a big like staple for MSG. I really liked how they stuck the rhythm section, which you don't usually, or not usually, but not as often do you get a traditional rhythm section out of them because they both are so creative and exploratory. But in Blaze On, Fish and Mike really locked in on this like syncopated, like clave type, like Afro-Cuban groove, and they built it from the ground up. And I really liked the simplicity of the groove that built out of Blaze On and eventually ended in this very blissful big ending. I don't think if every jam was like that, it would probably sound kind of like B tier jam band. But for Fish, it was nice to hear them locked in and playing like that.
yeah, yep, yep, totally. Yeah.
Sometimes it's the simple things that are like mind blowing because you're just not used to. It makes everything else seem so magnificent because you're like, oh shit.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I think the theme of the night tonight was how tight they were and how good it sounded and how locked in they were playing together from the minute they came out. Like after they got over starting No Man's in the Wrong Key, once that was like when you go out and you miss the first shot or you screw up, and then everything after that is like, you throw like a no hitter after whatever. But it's like it was perfect. They were tight, they were on point. It was great.
I'm gonna hit some chat real quick. Haley's was not the only cover. There was a
Funky
funky
bitch.
bitch in there.
Yep.
Rift was anything but clean. I disagree based on my recollection, but I will certainly go back and check that out. Sounded clean to me. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I thought so too. For where it is these days, it definitely.
I think Axilla is part of the greater Henge uh universe, but it's not part of the Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday. And they're like the base
Story.
storyline. So the
Yeah.
idea of doing, which listen, I don't. I don't know. I don't really think they're gonna do that, but it
Right.
is fun to talk about, and so you know,
Yeah.
so far it's still in play. We'll just leave it at
We'll leave
that.
it at that. And then you're gonna get that first lizards, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, scratch that theory off." Like,
Yeah. Although the other night in the lot I was talking about how I thought maybe not do a whole game henge, but do like a Fly Famous and
mhm,
Iculus, and I noticed somebody posted today the stats for 2023. Neither of those songs have been played this year, or the curtain. So I feel like there's a opportunity to do a very traditional but super amazing
mhm,
New Year's based on those songs, and I think that would be fucking
incredible.
great.
Yeah, totally,
All right, let's
totally.
get negative for a minute. Everybody cool with that? Why play fucking Mercy in the encore of this show? It made absolutely no sense. Trey's voice was starting to go. He needed to get a little bit of tea. I know it's not even that I hate this song, but it requires your voice to be on point. His voice wasn't on point.
No,
It wasn't fitting with the vibe of the show. Everything
at
else was
all.
like perfectly executed. It was just
Yeah.
a bad decision to play Mercy here. And it's those types of decisions that'll make people not like a song, right? Put a big fucking jam on Wave of Hope, people like it. Play Mercy when your voice is trashed in the encore of a raging show. People probably aren't gonna like it. I'm sorry.
I
You
will say
know.
this, though, the only thing I thought of that song when they played it was, "Man, I'm so glad they didn't throw this in the middle of the set somewhere as the slowdown song and completely put the brakes on the set," right? Like, at least he
Yeah.
waited till it was completely stopped down and then started with that and then built from there, right? Like, at least it had more to come after it, and we went there, but exactly, you coulda just started with Coil. You didn't even have to, right? Like, you coulda or played something raging more in that one to start it off, like, it was just, yeah, terrible
It was a
choice,
bad decision.
and you're excited for it, like, you know, they're coming back on stage, your energy's high, you're like, "What are they gonna do? What are they gonna do?" And then you're like, "Oh, man, I could just do this right now again. Damn it."
Um, but I do think that they realized, or Trey realized halfway through, or as they were coming out of Mercy, the mistake he made, and that's
Oh,
why we got the triple, hits coming out of it. Because I don't know, it felt like they were, I don't know, maybe I'm just speculating or projecting like thoughts, but it felt like they were making up and compensating to get the S.A.N.T.O.S at the end after the
the
coil and
S.A.N.T.O.S.
the pog.
Totally no, the S.A.N.T.O.S. totally was a tack on to like, it was again, it should have been an encore tonight because that's where whatever, but it was a total tack on encore. Like, it was just one of those like, okay, we'll make up for that first song with this.
I apologize, guys. If that, now that you're saying that, that sounds right. I'm gonna find out who posted that shit on the interwebs, which I stole without any back checking, and present it to you guys as if it were fact. I'm gonna find them and I'm gonna let them know that their statistics are incorrect. Well, that sucks. My whole theory's blown up in smoke. I apologize about that. We
Oh,
had a producer to fact check shit. Well, we got chat to fact check.
that's what we got the chat for. See, and then call
Yeah,
us out on shit. That's what's good about
literally
it.
the best chat on YouTube we have right here. Um, okay, what else? Coil band on stage, fucking great. Sounded beautiful.
Yeah,
Glad Paige got that with how well he played all night. I'm glad that he
exactly.
got that in there.
I feel like with as well as he played, though, he deserved the walk off. You know what I mean? Like, he deserved that moment of the spotlight, and you know what I mean. So when you saw them staying on stage, you're like, okay, obviously we're getting the pog. They can't leave us in the pogs like the freezer tonight. They got to take us out of the freezer, right? Like, we got to get that pog to finish that mics. It would have been even better if they had dropped into a hydrogen and given us that pog and skipped the S.A.N.T.O.S. Would have been really nice, but Coil's beautiful. It's gorgeous. So what are you gonna do, right? Like, I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
Paige deserved it. They got it, and then to pick up the Weekapaug after that, so much like there's your uppity funness, and then you get the S.A.N.T.O.S behind it. But the Weekapaug, 7 minutes to your point, it's kind of I don't know. I still haven't gotten used to it being as an encore. It's so
I
far
don't
away
like
from
it
Mike.
as an encore.
I don't like it so
I
far
don't.
away from Mike's. Like, it's just it feels too far away and not connected, and it's not really its own song. I like it again as that threesome. So yeah.
I think it does a disservice to the pog, right? Like Wikipaug is better in the second set and attached to mics. and also does a disservice to the encore because there's better choices, I feel like, for that encore. I will also say, and I know Kevin's going to disagree with me, and a lot of people will, but I think S.A.N.T.O.S gets cut short in the encore. I don't like it being fully regulated to that spot. I mean, I don't need to hear it all the time, but there early on there were some monster, S.A.N.T.O.S jams, and I feel like that's gone. Like
Yeah.
that has become that I thought would become a jam vehicle and go the way of Set Your Soul Free and everything, but it kind of went the opposite. They capped it at the knees and were like, get in the encore. And I don't think that was a good choice. I think they should have kept it going. But
Yeah, I agree, and it's hard because it's played in so many, like, when it first started, those first couple times it was played, like, as Casbot, then as the New Year's gag with them flying around, you're like, "This song's, like, so special, it's got so much, like, craziness to it," and then it's slowly, to your point, is just keep getting it chopped down, chopped down, chopped down, and now it's kind of regulated to, like, a character 0 or something like that, where it's this rocker at the end of the show. It either closes the set to, or
it
it's the
got the
encore.
character zero treatment. That's
It
what it
totally
got.
did. It
It
did.
got
It did.
zeroed.
It
I
got
don't like
0.
it. Don't zero my S.A.N.T.O.S. We're just making up a
Exactly.
whole new jargon and lingo now. We should make shirts with all of this shit.
Yep.
Um, Cool. Well, yeah, listen, we got it. We had a little bit of negativity in the encore. I think, we're going to shoot it straight. And when shit doesn't make sense, we'll do it. But overall, I think this was a fantastic show. I was shocked. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
typically a stan where I love everything they do. But for a night one, for a 28th, December 28th show to get this, holy
Yeah.
shit. I think if this is where we're starting, I think we're going to have some of the best shows we've had in a very long time, at least of the year, coming up in the rest of this run. The FOMO is strong, but I'm happy to be here with you guys.
It's
Any
like they
last thoughts
picked
on
up
it?
it's like they picked up right where Chicago left off, picked right up from that momentum. It's like they haven't it's almost like Chicago was last weekend or the other night, because it feels like it's just, like, right there in that same momentum. The only thing I hope for now is that they keep it going, and, like, tomorrow night's not a letdown show, or there's, like, you know what I mean? I hope it's just we keep going on this trajectory. Obviously, we're gonna get some mixed set lists, I feel like, coming in there. I think I don't I'm hoping tonight's not the best of the set list, at least especially in that first set, but it's a strong first set to try and top with some of those songs in there and shit. I know there's a lot left on the table and stuff, but I really enjoyed what they did in that first set. The song selection, the choices were made, it was really good. And even some of the songs in the second set had that same feeling, and really tight jams. So I'm hoping that carries over for the next 3 nights, which I'm sure it will. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot
Yeah, I
to live up
think it
to
will.
when you come out this strong and out of the gate like this. Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. So it's gonna be awesome. Can't wait. 3 more nights.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it on that. Well said, T. We will see all of you guys tomorrow night, 15 minutes after Encore, right here on Wook Plus. See you
Thanks
next
for watching.
time. Thanks, guys.